So that they can all see you.
But don't forget.
Yes. Yeah, writing things down is always a good thing.
Chair's a little bit different.
Yes, I know. I just find it Boston makes cut shit down. That's why I had it.
You might try to squeeze her in with one of the boards outs. Yeah, probably.
She works.
He's a fish and wildlife scientist out of Puerto Rico. We could do the industry updates. I mean, she's on.
That's
Popping in and out.
What is it? I have.
Do we offer? We just offer. She might have something. She's.
I take family to whole new level. I'm like,
Where you go, wildlife.
your wife and your daughter and your son. That's how Allison's husband's the rec program manager.
Out of Arcata.
For the Shasta Tea consultant with Wairika.
You guys look a lot better in person.
That's a compliment.
There you go.
Just means that like his screen's very pixelated.
You look like Lego people.
Everything's pixelated for me.
I'm not perfected, you know, the distance. See that you turn it on, you're like, whoa, because it's like right here, and you're like.
With lighting, it's so hot in Reading that like, especially when I work from home, that I have all the like blinds closed. And I'm like trying to not have to run the air conditioner 24/7.
right.
But then you're like, I don't have any light, and I refuse to be like, to buy one of those like. I'm not gonna do it, I will not own one of those, but then I'm just like trying to find where I don't look like I'm in witness protection.
Right.
Dark shadow there.
When you go on American Idol, you've got it covered. You got all the equipment.
Yeah, no.
Be ready.
Never gonna happen.
What else we got?
You're my 15-year-old doesn't have one, I don't need to have one, right?
I don't see any. Between them.
We could ask. I mean, we've never done that, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to put it there and then include it. General business.
Like,
There we go.
Yeah,
I
that
concur.
or which one? Which, well, I guess I think you should probably have one in the spring and one.
You guys get the front row.
Wow, hi.
Join us here.
He had went straight to the. And so
I got halfway to your office and I went, oh, I bet it's a.
was in there, I was in the announcement.
It wasn't enough. It's a notification. Creature of habits.
Oh, I get it.
I picked one up for you right here.
Every year.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and fire it up.
Rachel coming in?
She'll be here later.
At the
Okay.
barbecue.
Very good.
So good morning, one and all. Welcome. Great to see such a good turnout. Anytime we see food on the agenda, that seems to. it's, the winning formula. So welcome to you all on Zoom as well. Looks like we got quite a few. So we're going to do a little roll call round robin here, and we will start with start here.
Start, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll start here. And then we'll go to our Zoomers. Jim Spear, I'm the co-facilitator with Kelly on for the collaborative.
Ross Molino, member.
Susan Molyneux, public member.
Kristen Clark, District Ranger, Mad River Ranger District, 6 Rivers.
Tara Jones, District Ranger, Trinity River Management Unit and the Self Work Management Unit.
Allison Subidic, Forester, Shasta Lake District.
Ben Gray, detailed, so temporary assignment, Deputy District Ranger for the Shasta Lake NRA.
Dave DeLang, Vegetation Program Manager for Trinity Public Facilities District.
Carrie Sheen, registered professional forester.
Diana Sheen, public, interested public.
Chris Cole, District Conservationist, Natural Resource Conservation Service.
Alden Neal, Assistant Field Manager for Resources in the Reading Field Office.
Jennifer Mata, Field Manager, Reading Field.
And my name is Kelly Sheen. I'm the District Manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District and co-facilitator for the collaborative group. I will go ahead and call the roll for the folks that are on Zoom. Arnold Whitridge.
Here.
Bob Morris.
Morning.
Susan and Joseph Bauer.
We're present.
I have a phone, 941-4840. Is that you, Tom Waltz?
That's correct.
Okay, my memory serves me. All right, Jerry Cousins.
Good morning, everybody.
Larry Glass. I have Christine Jordan from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out of White Rico.
Good morning, everybody.
Let's see, Derek Harvey, also of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Getting a little bit, cutting in and out a little bit. Devin Copo, probably we're not like master of that.
Yep, Devin DeJacopo, also Fish and Wildlife at Wairika.
Okay, very good. Welcome, Devin, thank you. Let's see, and Sarah Akridge from the Chef's Trinity National Forest NRA.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. And Xander Winter from the Watershed Research and Training Center.
Good day.
Welcome, Xander. Thank you for joining us. I believe,
Keith Greenwood.
unless there's anybody else. Oh, and Keith Greenwood. Sorry, there you are. The SBI.
Hi.
Okay. And if there's anybody that I missed, please let me know. I think I got everybody.
Okay. All right, just a quick agenda check. That was sent ahead of the meeting. Had a chance to take a look at it. Any adjustments or additions?
Yeah, just one little bit of housekeeping. There is a sign-in sheet, agendas, and a few copies of the minutes of the last May's meeting. And for those of you that haven't been here before, bathrooms are just down the hall to the left. Out these two doors and down to the left.
Okay. Any comments on?
Jim, this is Jerry. I had a question on the agenda.
Okay, Jerry.
I see that the mortality issue is postponed until the next meeting. I thought it was to be agendized for this meeting.
Yeah, I think we've been working on it, Jerry. I think to date, however, we've been unsuccessful at kind of getting dialed in who would be best to kind of lead that discussion for us. So I think that's kind of been the hang up to date. We're going to continue to try to get that one figured out. Our next scheduled meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Welcome, Kenneth.
Hi,
You want to introduce yourself?
sorry I'm late. I went to the CD hall.
Ah, there you go.
Kenneth Baldwin, I'm with VBW and Associates.
Okay, last call on agenda. Good with what we've got here going forward? Okay. Public input, any? I know we have members of the public, but anybody want to comment at this time? Not seeing any? Just quickly, minutes were also sent out from last meeting. Any comments, questions, edits? Seeing none? Very good. We're going to move on to recent field tour in 23rd Big Ranch project. Tara, did you want to lead off on that and give your?
I'll kick it off. But first of all, I want to thank everyone for taking the time. It's not a short drive out there, but it was well attended and I really appreciate it. So on the field trip, we had designed a few stops and actually flagged in some potential treatments, what that might look like. The stops included a stop in a plantation with a roadside fuel break treatment, and then a general thinning of the plantation behind it. And then another stop had a natural stand with a shaded fuel break treatment adjacent to the road, utilizing the pilot prescription or the white paper prescription for that first 150 feet, feathering for the next 150 feet, and then just a general thinning for the natural stand behind that. That was also flagged and we were able to review that. We had a stop to look at some oak woodland opportunities where we could do some restoration and cut some of those competing conifers out of those traditionally oak woodland areas. And then we finished up with the last stop had some post-fire restoration work that we could do that's also within that large footprint. As you know, a portion of that project, about 10,000 acres of it, is on the Six Rivers National Forest, Lower Trinity unit. And so we're working with the Six Rivers to identify, what they're looking to, what kind of prescription things they're looking for on their side of the hill. But tying that Hennessy Ridge in and those fuel breaks to help protect the community of Salyer makes a lot of sense on a landscape basis. And that's what we're tasked to do, is to cross those kinds of boundaries and to make sure treatments flow across the landscape in a way that makes sense. So overall, I thought the field trip went well. I appreciated the comments by the collaborative. You brought up a lot of really good points, ways for me to think about kind of quantifying the treatments, especially in bigger trees, and about maximizing this NEPA to get as much done as we could under this planning effort. So I really appreciate everyone's time. I got some more refinement out of our time together, kind of what we're looking to do out there, but certainly open for more feedback from the rest of the group on what they thought of it and what we can do to make sure we're continuing to collaborate and have a shared stewardship approach to that project.
All right, thank you, Tara. Anybody else want to chime in on the field tour?
Oh dear.
Who
I'm
do we
looking
have?
for the.
Is that Susan?
It's Joseph. Susan's having trouble getting the little cartoon hand.
Yeah, I had some comments I wanted
Joseph.
to make about that project. It's getting increasingly difficult to convince our environmental partners to go along with our ideas here. We started out 10 years ago with the pilot project concept, and there were skeptical people then. They said, all right, well, we'll go along with it. Now 3,000 acre project, which has not happened yet, is turning into a 50,000 acre project. And there's really, I just don't see how we're gonna progress in a collaborative mood with that much of a jump from 3,000 to 50,000. You know, Dan Dill took the proof of concept when we gave him the prescription. And in 3.5 years, he had a sales sold. I think it was the 4th year it got operated on before it burned up. But here we are 10 years down the line and we still don't have pilot project sold or operated. It gets sold, the standard contract, Tara. If you can pull any strings, you need to do that to get it operated soon rather than in 3 years or an extension and getting it 5 years. We really need to see something happening on the ground so we can show our environmental partners that there's benefit in what we're doing. We can't really sell a 50,000 acre project at this point. So we need to talk further about how we're going to progress with all this.
Yeah, absolutely, Joseph. I appreciate those comments. And I'm fortunately, my background as a timber sale contracting officer, I've got some strategic ways to prioritize the acres that get treated first out of pilot. And there's some contractual ways that we can get those proof of concept acres accomplished first. That project is expected to be under contract the first quarter of 24. So I'm expecting that to occur in October. And I get it, you know, and you know, keep in mind of that 50,000 acres, 14,000 of that is our plantations, which in general, we have a lot of consensus around. I have no doubts that we'll continue to have to refine. I'll have to be able to explain and quantify exactly what we're looking to do out there. I know the concerns of the environmental community around big trees and canopy and owl habitat. We'll continue to meet with this group. We will be inviting Fish and Wildlife Service out there. The problem, as you know, Joseph, and it kind of played out for Browns and for pilot, is the amount of time it took to get the planning done. So there certainly isn't anything to say that we won't continue to learn and evolve as we implement under that NEPA. We certainly won't implement 50,000 acres in 1 year, and there will be a chance to learn and adapt through that throughout that NEPA document. And that you all, I think, know that I'm going to continue to work with you, and that we're going to evaluate the treatments for their effectiveness and their impacts on resources. I know that in this small group that sounds great, and that it maybe doesn't sound the same when you get further out of our community and everyone's not going on all these field trips. But I'll continue to work with all of you on that scoping document to make sure that we've got some of those safeguards in there that help you, you know, help people understand the need to treat on a larger landscape. And we certainly don't, as we all know, we want to do things that make sense on the landscape that benefit the resources. And I'm so confident that we'll be able to get there. It's just going to take a lot more work on the front end. There's a saying that says, you know, you go slow on the front end so you can go quick on the back end. And I'll continue to advocate that this will be a learning process, that we won't, it's not going to be a one and done. Oh, we signed the NEPA, we're done. We've got it figured out. So there will be monitoring trips and monitoring that'll have to occur post-treatment. So, but I appreciate those comments, Joseph, and I expected those, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara.
Any other comments? Feedback?
Jim, this Tom.
Yeah,
Jim,
Tom.
this Tom Waltz.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, in regards to Joseph's comments, I agree with him that, you know, the pilot program was going to be our way to show our way to good forest stewardship that accomplished fuels reduction and fire safety and everything else. And we haven't been able to get that to prove the concept. But the language that Tara is getting her foresters flued into the white paper, the idea of using spacing and large, save the best, healthiest, largest trees that provide the most shade on the landscape. All that language is being incorporated into a thought process for the Forest Service. So from that regards alone, I think we can claim a success in that regards. Now, we don't have the success of a lot of projects being done on the ground. And over in the Mad River, the success that we had with a few projects that did get completed, they got burned up in the August complex. So, I don't think we should understate that what we have accomplished is actually as important as what hasn't been accomplished. So I just wanted to throw that out for the group, that even though it's been long, tedious process, I think we have a common language and a common thought process, and that's quite an improvement in my opinion.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? All right, seeing none. Last call on field tour comments. With that, we will move on to our agency reports and updates. Shasta Trinity is up first.
Since I've been talking for the longest, you guys
A team effort.
go ahead and go first. I'll look after you.
Excellent. Sarah, would you like me to handle a couple of reports, or would you like to start that? We didn't
Just
discuss.
dropped off and just is now coming back on.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for her to come on, then I guess I'll not keep everybody waiting. And I think something of interest is the Minersville boat ramp here in Trinity County. I want to say at the top that this is our top priority for Trinity Lake, and so we're moving forward on that. Recently, our engineering contract was awarded, and so we are expecting a 30% design on that by December or January of this year. So that 30% design will allow us to move forward with what we need to start with our environmental review process and understand if we have to do anything else in our adjustments of our plans or design, or if we need to seek more funding. So that'll be an important road sign for us on the way of that project. Before we can begin construction, of course, we will need to get permits from the Army Corps and also California Water Quality Control Board. So we can't do any construction until we have their permits. So and because of that's out of the Forest Service's control, I can't commit to any type of time frame on that. But as I said at the top, I want to reiterate on that this is our top priority on Trinity Lake, and something that we'll be keeping an eye on, and we're committed to moving forward. Let's see. Then another project here that I think is of interest is our work out at Trinity Camps. The camps around Trinity Lake, which is a vegetation treatment and health and safety concerns. So we're going to be starting marking the timber up there soon at 3 sites at Hayward Flat Airport, which is important for its operation. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And also at Alpine View and Stiller Smith, that should be beginning in mid-August. So we're still doing some of our heritage surveys out there to make sure we're taking care of on that count. And then we also had a meeting with the Water Quality Control Board, I think just yesterday.
It was just yesterday. It went great.
Okay, would you like to add anything to that, Allison? I know you're part of it.
We met with Chad. We had a good day. We checked out a couple areas of concerns, and he honestly, he was great. He was in favor of everything we're doing. No big concerns. Alpine View is the only place that had a couple of riparian zones that we wanted to show him.
Oh, I screwed up.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know why you want to keep fussing with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the little hand.
It's on mute. Yeah, it's not you guys, it's them.
Yeah, this is Jerry. I don't know what's happening on your end, but the conference room is kind of frozen. Not going anywhere. Can't hear anything.
And
Now
Susan,
they're
you
gone.
need to mute yourself.
Did they drop off everybody's screen?
I
Yep.
don't. Yeah, they're gone.
Maybe could somebody call into Kelly's cell phone?
I can do that.
Thanks, Tom.
Just gotta find them. I'm calling them now.
I'll let Tara know too, just in case.
I'm just getting this voicemail, but
You don't. I sent him a text.
I'm still trying to find the little hand. I don't know what happened to it.
Susan, you need
can you
to
hear me?
mute the little mic button. Put the arrow on the mic button and mute yourself, because every time there's a sound in your house, it lights up your square.
Thank you for telling me.
Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're looking for the hand. If you click on reactions at the bottom, and then upper left is a yellow hand. Click on that.
Right. And that's what I've been looking for. Reaction. Excuse me all for being so behind in this. I'm not seeing anything.
On the bottom where it says record, share screen.
Yeah, okay. Reaction.
Reactions.
Now
then
I've got
upper
it,
left,
right.
small yellow hand in the upper left. Just trying to help.
So at this one, that's
There.
not it.
That's it. That's it.
Well-
Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it.
Not it, right, upper left.
It's at the very bottom.
Yeah, it's actually at the bottom. It says raise hand.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, there we go.
okay, it looks like the conference room is back on my screen.
Yes.
Welcome back.
We're back.
Well, you're just cutting me out then. I suspected that all along. I'd like to see something get done. You know, it started out being a multi-purpose trail there, and it was we changed its name. Now it's going to be the Ross Molyneux Memorial Trail. And I'm getting older all the time, and I'd like to see something done on this trail. It doesn't sound like it should be an impossibility, but yet I've been working on 10 years. And we talked about this before. We started on it, and it was a low-hanging fruit because it was a benefit to the community. It was a benefit to the concessionaires that because we fill campgrounds irregardless of the size of the lake, how full the lake is, and the people come into town and this is we're mountain bike riders, but trail users and everything bring a lot of money into this county, and we would like to we'd like to see it happen.
I see Sarah's back on, and I know they have gotten some work done
Yeah.
there. I think some of the survey work has been done, but probably since Sarah's got more of the history of it, that may be she might want to chime in here.
I can't help but think that Sarah left when she saw me.
All cut out, Ross. I look forward to hiking on the Ross Molyneux Trail.
Yeah. Well, it's becoming less and less a possibility for me every day.
So I know in the past couple months, Joe Stupendick has reached out to Caltrans. The major issue we are seeking to resolve at this point in time is the encroachment permit issue. Because we can do all of the NEPA and all of the surveys that we want, but if Caltrans doesn't give us permission, then we're kind of stuck. So Joe is working to get a stakeholders meeting set up with them on site. And now that Mike McFadden is on board as the recreation officer for the West Side, we're also going to be integrating him into our planning efforts and bringing him up to speed on where we're at with the project. We do keep chipping away at it, Ross. The surveys are done. Surveys are not a concern. Specialist reports are also done. It's really the permitting issue with Caltrans. That is where we are at right now.
Well, we'd like to start and do something except for the 100 feet that's in the Caltrans area. You know, we'd like to see something get done up to it because we'll just go alongside. We're right on the road. As we have the right to do, we'll follow the road in that area until they work through and get their part done. And I'm not worried about that culvert because I had always planned on going over the top of the culvert, closer to the road instead of at the bottom. It's at the bottom of a rocky slope. I've talked about this before. We don't want to go screaming down this rocky slope and go along and then try to climb up the other side. There's some old mountain bike riders that would prefer just to go at elevation right across the thing and get off and back onto the trails, get back onto the lake trail.
I absolutely
So-
understand that that would be a preference, but as I think I have mentioned, I cannot make a decision that puts people out onto Highway 3 as a formal or informal part of their route forward.
Well, you know, I can, because we are out on Highway 3 quite often. Wherever the lake encroaches upon the thing, we have no area to build it. We're out on Highway 3 quite often in the trail. And you know, we look for a grant and you told them, well, you didn't have the funding to do your part of it, to oversee it. We're not asking you to build the trail. We will build a trail, and we're just asking. So I think, and then we didn't get the grant, or the watershed didn't get the grant because you said that you didn't have the funding to oversee it. Something like that. And that's
not
after.
factual. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. This is actually 2 meetings ago. We said, oh, you have all this money and you have all these people and you have all, you know, and yet you don't have the funding to oversee us, you know.
Let's give Sarah an opportunity, Ross, to respond to some of your comments, okay?
I've been here 10 years giving Sarah an opportunity, you know?
Well,
My bit hasn't been here that long.
No.
yeah. So Sarah, you want to address some of Ross's concerns there?
So I believe the funding issues were not pertaining to anything regarding Trinity Lake. Those were some of the project elements out of our Mount Shasta office and the wilderness trailheads. We don't have any concerns about overseeing this trail or needing funding for any of that. So that had nothing to do with the grant.
Well, now I heard the opposite.
There are multiple rangers involved, and some districts have funding needs and some do not.
Well, the grant I'm referring to is the one that Watershed was applying for.
Yep, same one. I don't
Okay.
have funding needs and did not request any.
It's
So
a small town and we know everything that goes on at these meetings. You know, everybody is related to somebody and nothing is in secret.
if I may,
He's talking about the geological survey that we thought we needed to do to present that information to Caltrans. And that was not funded.
No, I'm not talking about that.
so I think maybe that maybe we could dive a little deeper into this trail for the next meeting and come back, we can line out exactly in writing, give you the surveys and things that we have done, what the path forward is. I know Sarah mentioned that they've been meeting with Caltrans. And so maybe that would be the best use of, give you a more specific breakdown of what Sarah's unit is working on and what paths may be available to move forward. We're doing more planning in the North County than we've done in a long time, between Bowerman being up there as well as the Trinity Camps project, and Sarah's got a landscape level project up there. So I think she's, I think that there may be some avenues for her to have some meetings with Caltrans anyway. So, maybe I know you've been waiting 10 years and one more meeting just feels like one more meeting, Sarah, and I respect that. But I think that we can maybe just build our ducks in a row and leave kind of that gray area where it's he said, she said, and we can give you kind of, this is where we're at, this is what we've done. These are the avenues that we think can move it forward. If that makes sense for you, Sarah, and for you, sir.
I don't want to address the Caltrans issue on the build a trail. When they build I've done a lot of large construction projects. And if I'm going to build a trail across the United States, I don't stop and worry about the bridge across the Mississippi. I start building the road, from New York and started from California going the other way. I don't worry about that piece of the middle till I get there.
I understand that, sir, but for you, as you probably guessed, from a liability standpoint, if we were to construct a road or a trail that then led people out onto and we hadn't done our due diligence on figuring out that piece on the highway and something were to happen, then the federal government may take on some financial liability. So I understand what you're saying. And I think we can probably find a path forward. But I think that Sarah wants to make sure she has the big picture.
We're not going across the road. We're not even going the other side of the guardrail.
We're kind of going circles here. So I think Tara's got an offer on the table. Can we move forward?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think we leave that Caltrans thing out. We don't, just like we're not talking about going over the Stewart's Fork Bridge, we're going over the bridge. We're going to after we.
Tara, would it be acceptable to propose potentially a kind of a working group meeting before you come back in 2 months? Just
that would be a Sarah question.
Okay, Sarah, would that be a possibility to meet with Ross and his group as far as kind of what some of your challenges are in terms of addressing some of his concerns, and then maybe 2 months kind of report back what you and Ross and his group have kind of come up with as far as a solution going forward?
I'm open to having additional meetings. I don't think the substance of the issue will change. I think Tara was the idea of having a laid out plan and where we're at is absolutely something we can do. I think the liability concern is still real, and we are going to continue to try and get Caltrans to the table because they are a big piece of this overall picture, whether it is this culvert or the next one or the next one. But that's going to be part of the challenge of this trail, is bringing them to the table and having them be part of the solution. So whatever connections any of you all had with Caltrans to encourage that collaboration would be much appreciated.
There's only one issue that we're talking about.
Ross, we can't finish it here.
We're going to have.
Sarah, you said that you had possibly connections with Caltrans, and Mike McFadden might be willing to participate in that. And I think that would be helpful.
I agree.
Okay, we have a comment from Larry. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to come to Ross's defense here. I understand why he's so frustrated. We've been meeting as a collaborative now for over 10 years. And what we need, I trust that if Tara got involved in this, she could make it happen. But that's what we kind of need, is somebody to grab a hold of this by the back of the neck and drag it across the finish line. I'm sure there's a million excuses why this thing can't happen. But if we help Ross out with this project and we've got somebody that's going to shepherd it through the process, which I know is complicated, we can get this thing done. We all voted to support this a long time ago. So anyways, I just wanted to speak up on his behalf. I understand why he's frustrated, and he doesn't mean anything personal to you, Sarah. It's just been a long, frustrating process.
All right, thank you, Larry. Anybody else? Oh, Carol, would you mind introducing yourself too, Carol?
Sorry.
Yep.
Carol Fall, North Trinity Lake, Bulger Fire Department. I really that.
Thank you.
Just to add a point of clarification, so one of the things we were waiting for was the Watershed Center had applied to the Sierra Nevada Conservancy for a recreation planning grant for the North Lake area. And so we were waiting to see if they got that grant to help provide some of the technical information that Caltrans was asking for regarding the geology of that slope and the stability of it where we were planning to put the trail. So they did not get that grant. And so that's what Ross was talking about when he was asking about funding.
All right, thank you, Carol. So as it stands, Chair, it sounds like you folks are gonna get together and come up with a game plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And come back and report kind of how this thing moves forward.
That
Sarah.
seems to be-
Sarah, are you on board with that?
I know Mike will be committed to helping get there as well, so.
Okay,
Absolutely.
very good. Sarah's nodding her head. Okay, all right, thank you, Ross. Appreciate your patience. Long suffering.
I'm just surprised that only two people came to my defense. After 10 years, I think of you as my friends. And two people came to my defense.
Worry about you. Hiking that trail, Ross.
Okay, and we do have one other guest that joined us. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Tyler Guys from Three River Lumber.
All right, Tyler, thank you. Okay, I think we are still on Shasta Trinity.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
Anyway, so sorry about that. And the good thing, Ross, I will, for the last part of that is, I don't think there's anyone in the room that doesn't want to see that trail get built. So if there's any common thread, I know Sarah and I have talked about it regularly that we want to find a way to get that trail built. And so we're going to find a way to get that done.
It's also not the only place we're having issues with Caltrans, so I mean, I'm being transparent on that. Like, we've been, how many years have we been trying to put the kiosk on the pullout on the top of Oregon Summit, which also requires an encroachment permit. It's been a task of the community forest, and we've had the same issues working through, working through that with Caltrans. So it's not just you guys, it comes across. Perfect. And I make things like very complicated, but depending on the type of easement Caltrans has, depends on how much authority. So if they have like a right of way that's under a grant from us, it's a different story than if they have an easement that predates FLPA, which a lot of like 299 and I would imagine Highway 3 is the same way, and they're then kind of grandfathered in, so we have less ability to kind of pressure them, at least on the BLM side. I don't know how Forest Service works, but we have less ability to kind of pressure them internally because it's like a pre-existing right that predates us as an agency, like our NEPA regulations as an agency. So that pressure from outside, if there's a nexus to get to them from kind of the outside, might be helpful.
So is that something that you continue to work with them on? Or is it you're done?
They're still working on the community forest side, I believe, to figure out how to work through that. But if they have a concern about encroachment because of the width of their easement and their concerns about, the safety issues and aspects of having people like that that's close to, their adjacent thoroughfare, then there's not a lot of
How long have you been working on that?
I've been here 11 years. I think it was one of the first couple things in the spelling committee that was on the, like, one of the tasks, so a while.
I'll be 91 in 11 years.
I'll still be here and so will you. We'll get it done with me. Yeah, so I guess, I know that we need to move on for time's sake, but just to be trained, like, it's not just
Right.
Sarah and the Forest Service having that issue. Like, we see it in and we have the same types of conversations with them on kind of our side when we want to do anything that comes close to their easements.
Okay.
I've been able to leverage with them, and we did it up on Highway 89 was, they really like that clear recovery zone, they call it. So that's how close are the big trees to the road. So when we do veg treatments that come up to the state highways, they then become they very much want to be at the table. And so, in which they should be, right? Because it's adjacent to the road. And we were able to get some collaboration from them on the front end. So I anticipate, like, for Big Ranch goes all the way down to Highway 299 West, that I will be bringing them along. And then once you're standing on the ground looking at an area, it's easy, well, we would like a wider bike lane. Well, and we want you guys to cut the trees right in here. And so we can usually find some common ground. As you guys know, everything you look at in the field goes 1,000 times smoother. But if they once we start doing those treatments up against the highway, they seem to be more interested in that collaboration piece of it. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is leveraging that part of the relationship to get some of those other things moving as well. So.
All right.
So many things. It's like, okay.
Hey, this is Tom Walsh. Can I make one comment?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, sir.
We talk about our frustrations and stuff, and that, Caltrans has all these limitations. And yet over on Highway 44 up above Singletown, they did a massive fuels reduction program right along the highway. The EIS and everything else all occurred, and the work occurred within a 2.5-year period. Now, that to me tells me that there are ways that Caltrans can operate, and somebody's got to figure out how to do it. And Ross is right. We can look at stumbling blocks, but we know that it's possible. So I think somebody's not asking the right questions or putting the right amount of work in to get the right answers. Just my opinion.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Sarah.
Sure. So, as you know, the Bowerman scoping period has closed. And so the watershed center is out diligently trying to lay out some of those stands and look at some of those potential treatments. We're working closely with them to look at different treatment options based on topography, fuels, those kinds of things. So that project continues to progress. Pine Palm scoping is due out next week. Wanted to give you a little bit of feedback about the buffers around the plantations. That project in particular has a lot of plantations that are kind of shotgunned across the landscape. So it wasn't really feasible for me to be able to get the 150-foot buffer around every single plantation, just because there were so many and they were so kind of fractured. Where they were kind of lumped together or where they were near a road, I've highlighted those buffer areas, and as a matter of fact, then I just took that fuels prescription C and kind of are going to treat between the plantations and tie it into a road so it's blocked in, which makes it more effective as a fuels treatment, and it gives us a better chance to put prescribed fire in there. So I just wanted to share with the group that was one of the challenges, because I know those buffers around plantations are important to this group. We will be having, when the scoping is out, we will be having a public meeting at Pine Palm to get folks out there. I believe that's going to be August 12th. The Big Ranch project, the common stand exams contract should be getting started pretty soon, and that's true for the Shasta Trinity piece as well as the Six Rivers piece. We're going to get those stand exams going. We're working to kind of develop our 5-year plan as far as what we're looking to do across the landscape with veg management projects, as well as some of the special uses pieces. Also, we're super excited to celebrate the Sweepstakes Trail opening this weekend. There's an event on Saturday to really celebrate that trail and the good work done by our partners and things. As many of you know, we're having a partner barbecue. I invited Caltrans. I felt like I should give them a warning. That's kind of the, you know, the idea of the barbecue is to get everyone together. I do want to throw out the disclaimer that the barbecue is being paid for by leadership and employees, not by your tax dollars. I know, you know, I grew up in Bernie. I know the people are like, oh, they're my tax dollars at work. So I'm telling you, it's not. So there's that. I think that's, I'll leave with that. One thing we are going to celebrate, and I'm happy to share with this group, is one of the things we're going to do today is honor Kenny Graves, who has 45 years of service as a Packer with the Forest Service. So that's quite a legacy for him, and we're super proud of him. So I think that's probably a good enough update for now. I feel like I've been talking the whole time anyway. So let's go to Six Rivers for a while.
Let's just make sure anybody has any questions for Tara. Any questions for Tara? All right, they had mercy on you.
Third quarter then?
It's looking more like first quarter of 24. But like October, early first quarter.
Yeah.
Definitely before snow flies, we'll have it on the streets.
Oh, your first quarter's October. All
Yeah.
right. I was gonna. say
So yeah, so our fiscal year ends and same for KLM, federal fiscal year
Right,
ends
okay.
September 30th. You're like, what the heck?
I know.
Good question.
Do anything like everybody else in their.
Yeah.
Start with one. So, question.
Yes, Carol.
Yes.
I'm confused as usual. So the Watershed Center is looking for funding from Sierra Nevada Conservancy. They submitted a concept proposal for 373 acres for like just under $1 million around Covington Mill. So how does that work with the funding that you're getting from the wildfire crisis implementation? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how those, why they need that additional funding.
So what's the best way to, so we spent about $14 million to treat 4,000 acres so that was some of the disaster supplemental money. And I'm thrilled to say that that's probably, thank you for teeing that up for me. We got contracts put together under an IRSC for around $14 million to treat 4,000 acres and to remove over 70,000 tons of fuels off of the landscape. So I guess to answer your question is, there's not that much money to do, you know, the amount of acres that we need to treat. I mean, if you just think about High and Palm, how many of those plantations, for instance, are submerged, or we'll have to pay to get them treated, and how many of those fuel treatments?
High and Palm's not in the crisis implementation. That's right. Bowerman is.
No, High and Palm is in the landscape.
Okay.
So if you, I mean, we have 900,000 acres within that landscape. And so I guess my point is, we will be applying for Joint Chiefs money. We'll keep applying for grants. There's so much work to do. It's going to take a lot of money. So our partners applying for grants to get money to help get some of that work done is really crucial. And it helps connect the dots both on private, because they can do some of that stuff, and it helps us get more done.
Well, I could add on to that too. There's some really tight sideboards on where we can spend certain colors of money. And so it's really challenging on the map to make sure. Plus, we keep applying for, you know, our out year funding, but nothing's guaranteed. And we're competing with other forests that are in the landscape or are a landscape. And so there's still that going on. And so, I mean, we had a meeting yesterday and I talked about, you know, triple dipping, because we're trying to cover all our bases. And so that's why we're going to go for all the funding that comes, opportunities that come towards us along with our partners, because we don't know how it's going to shake out. Plus, we've seen costs go up exponentially. So I haven't been able to stretch my dollars quite as far for implementation, because, you know, we've seen bids come in 2 and 3 times the amount of the government estimate. And so, you know,
okay,
like what you were saying, yeah.
Right, so you should write a letter of support.
And you know, the other thing, we're leveraging the value of the timber to get more acres treated as well. So
Yeah.
we are using every tool at our possible disposal to find funding to get all this really, really important field stuff done. And I know that's true because we meet regularly, at least weekly, to figure out the best strategy forward.
Okay, great. Thanks. I
Good
appreciate
question.
All right, thank you, Carol. I think we are done. Tara, yeah? All right, Six Rivers, Kristen.
All right, yeah, welcome, everybody. It's nice to be in the room, so thanks for that. So, you know, kind of leading out with what we just were talking about in terms of, you know, costs and all that. So the large stewardship IRSC for the August was awarded, and the pre-op meetings with the successful bidders have started, and work has started out in the woods. So that was collectively about $18 million, which I thought was going to take care of all the items that I had in there. And it didn't, because like I was saying, our costs, you know, came in a lot, or the bids came in a lot higher than we had anticipated. And so there's definitely a learning curve for us. That was the largest project that Six Rivers has ever had, certainly my district. And so we were kind of the guinea pig, and actually the BBA group, Matt Daigle and Mark Phillip, that's what that mentioned, that they were going to use some of the lessons learned on that to help out with Shasta Trinity's, and the Mendocino also have other large projects. So that was awarded to a portion of it, mostly the roadside that we had, to Kyle Kaiser, which is a local contractor, and then Bamford, which is still North State, so not Trinity County. But what's important is that they are hiring local folks. So it is bringing a lot of local dollars into the community, and that's a really important part of the whole matrix of what we're trying to get done. So that was exciting to have something that was out of our August restoration EA. So there was that. And then additionally, part of that analysis for that EA was the replacement of the Ketten Palm Tone 9 radio repeater that burned up in the August. And so, well, in the historic Ketten Palm lookout, which hadn't been used, and it was difficult to get to, you know, that burned up. And so we made the decision, and it was analyzed in the EA, to move that radio repeater to Grizzly Mountain, so it's more accessible. So there was disaster funding to provide a shelter for that. So that just got placed last week. So finally, it's been a long slug to get to implementations out of that EA. Additionally, this last week, land tender training occurred with our staff with the Watershed Center. So that is another place where both the forests have put money together for that acquisition. And we're really excited about that. And so when my forester comes to me and he's really excited about a new software, I know it's a good thing. So I was thrilled to hear about that. It's a real shift. You know, we're using the ARC, the AGOL, the ARC, whatever that stands for, online.
ArcGIS.
Yeah, online, and then moving to some of these other formats. And so it's a shift, but they're more user friendly, I guess, in a sense, and more they're easier to share out to the public. And so that's the whole intent of land tender and some of these online GIS, so that you guys can be right there with us while we're, you know, putting stuff in the map and working out analyses and that kind of stuff. So that's really cool, I think. Additionally, we had a meeting. Now this is a little outside of this footprint, but the AFRC. So we met, and you had your meeting too, I think the week before, with the American Forest Resource Council. That's a group of industry that meets with us quarterly. Now this field trip was actually up on the Smith River NRA, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is that tethered logging, and I don't know if they discussed it with you. Yeah, so tethered logging is being promoted, the industry, and I'm sure Tyler knows a lot more about it than I do. You know, is encouraging us to look at that. And I just wanted to say, we don't have that analyzed in our land management plans. And so when we do our new land management plans, I know that we're looking at that. So for us to use that on any upcoming projects, we would have to analyze it as a forest plan amendment. And so it just adds some complexity. But I think that that's something that it would be good for us to start looking at. And this project up on the NRA, which I know is out, and I'll move on, but Rowdy Divide, they're looking at using that as a demonstration. So what that is being able to use mechanical on steeper slopes. And so they'll have like a feller buncher, you know, tethered, so on a cable, so that it can go down steeper slopes with less soil and erosion impacts. So I think that that's a lot of new exciting technologies there. So we had a really good meeting with them. Moving on, I'll just kind of move into some like fire and fuels type stuff. We're hiring a fuels planner. So I'm on the hiring for this position. Being part of a wildfire crisis strategy in a landscape, there's a lot of hiring that we're doing. And so that will help us increase our pace and scale. You know, we use that pace and scale a lot, but getting these new folks on now, a lot of them are new, entry level, early workforce, and so some training, but they're also young and smart and, you know, really willing to roll up their sleeves and dig in, and they're getting a lot of training. So I think that will move us along. My district in particular, we don't actually technically have any field staff. You know, I have the world-renowned Nancy Curran at my district.
And her dump truck.
And her dump truck, yeah. Who has been talking about retiring, unfortunately. So as long as the economy stays like it is, I think I can keep her a little bit longer. But technically, she is a forester. And so you know, I need some more fuel staff. I have an intern that was hired actually in range management, but he has a forestry degree and is much more interested in fuels and forestry than he is in range. So Nancy's taken him under her wing, and he has been learning a bunch of stuff there. So once we get that fuel staff, I think you will see us really leaps and bounds, but our model has always been integrated with the forestry staff. Because, you know, what is fuels but forestry, right? That's what I say, to the chagrin of some of the fuels managers. But so that actually has worked really well, having our integrated projects that way. So that is the big thing on news on hiring. And then also Mike Beasley, some of you might remember him. He's retired fuels, what was he? It's like chief off the Six Rivers. I mean, he's a fuels planner. Anyway, it's called the ACES program. It's where we can bring back retirees to work for us. And he's coming next week to work with my foresters that I mentioned, and my FMO for our burn plan. So you guys might be aware that the Forest Service has a new format and requirements for us to do prescribed fire. There's a new format for our burn plans. So anything that was burn plans that were previous need to be in the new format. There's a lot more requirements for district rangers and agency administrators to be on site and to approve firing every day. And this, you know, came out of what occurred, unfortunately, with prescribed fire last year in New Mexico. So our chief took a real hard look at making this a more robust system, and there's a lot more requirements. Additionally, all our staff has to go through facilitated learning prior to participating in any prescribed fire. So I'm sure Tara's been running her staff through there. And as we have new people come in, you know, we run them through that as well as our line officers. You know, we had to go through it as well. So that would give us a little bit more capacity, having Mike come in and help us with our burn plans. And I'm looking at expanding our prescribed fire on the district. I think I kind of mentioned that last meeting that I was here. Okay. So LaJean, I'm going to mention LaJean. He was next on my list. So LaJean Heyman is my NR specialist. He's, you know, you guys all, most of you all know him. He's currently detailed as a district ranger on the Lassen at Hat Creek. So I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be around. He's definitely a high value commodity. And so I think he'll get snatched up. So that's been a little, we haven't filled in, excuse me, behind him. And so that has put more workload onto my staff as we've moved forward. So, okay, let's see what else do you want. I know about that. A big concern is roads, definitely in my district. The Fire Safe Council came out to Mad River a couple of weeks ago to work on I think the all hazard plan that the county is.
A hazard mitigation plan.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I attended that, and there was the usual locals that are, highly involved in what we do. And so roads came up. There's obviously a lot of storm damage with all the roads, and it's definitely a big issue. And, in order for us to get out to our project areas, we have to have, road access. So that has impacted some of our implementation. We're planning out in front of that, aware that that's an issue. And so definitely putting money and work towards getting our roads. Our road maintenance CE, which had expired, is now, it's programmatic, is now signed. So that'll allow us to move forward with that. And then the last couple of things, there's a lot of new emergency authorizations in place that we're looking at taking advantage of for our NEPAs. They've been the Washington office has been rolling these out, and there have been some trainings. And so until you really start using them, it's difficult to know how well they're going to work. So I just wanted to say to that is, even though we have these new ways to get work done, it still doesn't exempt us from our consultations with our regulatory agencies. And so, even though there's some emergency authorizations in place for the Forest Service, they're not necessarily applied to, say, Fish and Wildlife Service or some of our other state agencies. So that workload and that lift is still there. Our regional office is looking at ways to help smooth that a little bit, but one agency's problem is not another agency's problem, so that takes a little bit of, as we talked about earlier, a little bit of finesse there to get some of our projects through. And then with all this wildfire crisis strategy work, the reporting is a huge workload. Facts, you guys may have heard about that. That's where the Forest Service reports all our accomplishments. We're being held to a new standard with all this money, which is this 30-day reporting. I have earmarked one of my foresters as that is her main job, but we also brought in some enterprise help to some additional folks to help us to do that. The other thing will be that economic reporting. What was that called? Treat? Do you remember what that? There's a bunch of new acronyms that we have to learn also. So the Washington office is very focused on seeing the economic benefits, particularly to the local communities. And so they're going to want to see how our dollars are going out with our partners, our contractors, local businesses that provide, say, food and all that kind of stuff, and really drilling down to see how far these dollars are helping the local communities. So that isn't going to be another big part, and we're already planning for that. They're going to be looking for that in December, and we're already planning for that. Okay, so I guess I'm going to stop there. Hopefully I hit on stuff that you guys wanted to hear. You know, our project work, we did get, my district, we got an award from the region for planning. Now it's on Rat Tail, and that is only portion of that is in Trinity County. The rest of that project is in Humboldt County, but to help with planning. So NIFWIF, the National Fish and Wildlife Federation, Foundation, I think. Yeah, okay. There's an agreement with them that's not quite signed, and so that's going to help us with our planning. So when we get these slugs of money, then it helps us shift funding that maybe we had planned for that project to another project to kind of stretch our dollars. So we're kind of drinking from the fire hose right now because there's so many new initiatives to respond to what these communities need for wildfire protection and restoration, that there's always something new that comes across our emails every day. So anyway, hopefully I didn't linger too long with my report out, and I'll stop there.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Any questions for?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to the trail around.
Yeah.
No. You said that the bids are higher than expected,
Yeah.
than you estimated. And why do you think that? Do you think that the bidding pool has grown too small, or is it just supply line issues, or
It's inflation.
it's just like everything that's going on,
else.
everything?
Yeah, it is.
But then is there still a healthy bidding pool?
Yes, you know, my offering was burned timber. So that is a specialty, I guess you'd say. That's much more expensive to treat burned timber than it is green timber. So, you know, we had 3 bidders on my IRSC. 2 were local, like in Mad River. And then, you know, one Stanford, who I mentioned, who got the award, was North State. So it's everything's expensive: fuel, transportation, you know, wages. Yeah.
Okay, we got a question back here.
Going back to the tethered logging and is there a plan to update the forest plan to include that? Or is it just gonna be, you're gonna write amendments and include it, or just curious?
Well, there is a plan to do our forest plan updates, and we've been in this sort of cycle, and it's got pushed back. I'm not sure, Shasta Trinity, if you guys are in the same cycle as.
I think it's the same boat.
I
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have opportunity to put whatever we need that's, you know, relevant at the time into the forest plan. And so you know, the writing's on the wall, and we're definitely interested in doing that. So, yeah.
Okay, Kenneth.
Is any part of this plan or this project in the Heller High Water Ranch area south of Kenton Pump?
South of Kenton Pump, no. So the EA analysis was the whole footprint of the August fire in my district. But our work is in the Trinity landscape. So on the Mad River district, the Trinity landscape boundary is basically the upper Mad watershed, because what they did was they captured the watershed that drains into Ruth Lake. It's the Ruth Lake watershed, because a municipal water supply was that criteria. So again, when I talked about color of money, so I got disaster supplemental for this project, and I also got some rural money. But if my project footprint wasn't in the mapped WUI, then I had to spend other dollars. It's a real shell game of making sure, because when I mentioned the facts that reporting that we have to do, we have to put what landscape now, that's a new tab in our facts reporting to say which landscape it is. So that was kind of a long answer to your question. So no.
No.
Getting there, because 2 projects that I've asked for funding for are the County Road Hazard Tree expansion. And then there's a lot of interest in, and I have it on there too, is treating around the WUI. So we haven't focused on treating right around the WUI yet, but that is the next one that we're gonna plan for that's in that footprint. So I know Kenton Palm doesn't get the attention that it. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
they're not shy about telling everybody about it.
Well, they haven't bothered me too much, so I should probably.
Mostly
get
it's
some
the
names.
road department that they.
Oh, yeah, that's been a
Heather
real
logging
challenge.
is,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. I was wondering if maybe a presentation at some point would be a good thing.
I did have a question, just to follow up on that particular comment. I haven't heard anything to this effect, but I was wondering, like, between disaster supplemental, like with the impacts that the fires have had across the county. It's Coffee Creek Road, Kenton Palm Road, there's a lot of county roads that have been impacted by fire over the past few years. And I was just curious as to whether or not the Forest Service in general was taking any responsibility to assist the county in the issues that we see really prevalently down in South County with regard to county roads falling apart and sliding out and all.
So you're
But
talking about the alignment itself?
Yeah, the actual roads, the road beds.
Well, we don't have any jurisdiction there. Those are easements through the roadbed itself. So I guess the short answer would be no. We do recognize, though, that they go together. It's a symbiotic relationship, those county roads with Forest Service roads. And so Trinity County is doing their general plan update right now. And I had somebody, I'm going to forget his name, from the county call that was putting together those focus groups. And actually LeJean, I was double booked that day, and LeJean went to one of those focus groups to talk about, I think it was infrastructure and mobility or something like that. I forget what they called that one. And so I told him, I said, in that, please talk about the fact that we can't get to Forest Service roads without going down a county road, that relationship. But just roadside hazard trees is what we would treat, but no, not we have the Forest Service roads that millions of dollars are going to. So you have a hand.
Behind you. Yeah, we've got a hand up here. I'm gonna have Jerry and then we'll go to Carol. Okay. Jerry, you're up.
Hey, hi, everybody again. A couple of things. What's happening with the Good Neighbor Authority? It wasn't mentioned, and I know it's been perking. So not to Kristen specifically, but just to Forest Service.
You should come to the barbecue and find out.
Yeah, Jerry, come to the barbecue.
Okay, enough said. I got it. And then,
Announcement made at the barbecue.
Oh, boy. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, okay.
I didn't even know that.
I also just want to comment on a different tone of the meeting. It wasn't, I think it was just the last meeting, there was infrastructure money, there was Joint Chiefs money, there was Fireshed money, and then there was another 17 million showed up, and people couldn't spend it all. And 2 months later, now there's not enough money. So were the projects in the flush of times, were the projects that were designed too big and now you can't accommodate them? It's just way different today.
Yeah, I'd say, market forces, really. I mean, we're subject to market forces, just like everybody else. And so we have our appraisal program and process that we have to run through. And that's what our forest timber management officer did. And our fuels, we work up what we think those costs are, and then you just don't know. So when people come in to compete in a sealed bid type of environment, then those market forces come into play. So, I think that's what we're seeing.
Okay, well, let's let Carol go here.
Just to follow up on Kelly's comment, in the past, the Forest Service has used disaster supplemental money to help repair county roads. And the prime example of that is the Coffee Creek Road after the coffee fire. So because there was so much forest traffic and all that, firefighting traffic, they actually paved part of the road. And so using Forest Service funding, that was what the Department of Transportation told me. So maybe this is a comment I should make to the for supervisors, but I really see no,
That sounds like suppression repair to me.
It could be, but I
That would
mean,
have
they
occurred.
have used Forest Service money to improve. And they went, it was a couple of years later that they went back and paved that road. It wasn't right after the fire.
Jared, do you want to?
Yeah, so the nexus of spending federal tax dollars on county roads would be to the benefit of the resources on National Forest System lands, right? Like, we can't just go pave a county road through private lands.
It was get
And
to
so-
get to the Forest Service.
So as a tease, I will tell you that we, so, and Kristen talked about, right, mixing money, we can't, we've got some different ways now that we can actually put different kinds of money into an agreement, but we did put road maintenance into the Good Neighbor Agreement. So now we will have at least an agreement that can facilitate some of that. Now, does that mean that, oh, look, and so don't leave here and say the Forest Service is gonna repave Coffee Creek Road, because that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there's some money in there, there's a tool that we can start to address those things. And that's the first step, Carol. And I know that road is in very bad disarray, and I know the county and the Forest Service are gonna need.
Becoming unusual.
I
Ask him for a brief description.
Agreed, and I know I got a visual at the public meeting we had, was you could drop a 6-foot stick down this pothole and it didn't hit the bottom, so it's fresh in my mind. I got that feedback, and we're gonna do what we can to work with the county to see what we can collectively put together for out there.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so did we have a question? Of me?
Just,
I'll get to you next, Kenneth.
It was about fuels. Early on, you said you treated 4,000 acres and it cost 14
Because of the removal,
roughly.
mostly.
Okay, that's fire treatment, post-fire.
That's cut, skid, deck, remove.
Okay.
Plus the manual, there's some handwork in there as well.
And that's no sale at the tail end of it.
So this was all coal material. It was burned
Okay.
in the August complex
So about 3,500 an acre, you'd say, and.
with the removal.
And you think that that's tripled now, maybe doubled if you tried to do that again?
No, that was our rate. So that
But I
we
mean,
just,
if you
we
were-
just awarded it.
Okay,
And I have a little bit of an advantage, and the NRA over in Reading has a little bit more of an advantage. It's just about how remote are you and how close are you to the facilities? And there's some pilot projects out there that are, gonna help subsidize some of the transportation costs of that material. And so I think that our costs will be somewhat similar, and where we have green timber, we can leverage the value of the timber to help deal with that removal. So I don't think that these two particular projects, I mean, you all know when the August complex burned, so there was a lot working against those projects. If we didn't get it out now, probably we would never have been able to get it out. So that in and of itself, getting over 70,000 tons worth of fuels off of the landscape and not having to try to figure out how to burn it is huge.
And just quick, even being from the NRA closer to I-5, we're still looking within the $3,000 to $4,000 an acre range, because removal, like Tara said, is the most difficult and the most expensive part. And there's just so much out there, as we all know, that needs to be removed from our forest, and that's what we're gonna be looking at for a while.
I mean, what was it the Pumas asked for? $245 million or something for their landscape because of the Dixie fire.
Okay, we got Kenneth and then we'll go to Keith. So Kenneth, you're up.
I'm asking again about your project. So are you doing the same thing? Your timbers getting removed? And what does that mean?
So when we first did the appraisal, we used a regular stumpage rate. And then when we did our field trip with potential bidders, they said there's no way that we're gonna pay whatever, how many dollars per thousand for this timber. It's just to the degradation. So we went back and reappraised it at the coal rate, 50 cents DCF. And so whatever, receipts I thought I was gonna get dwindled to almost nothing. So in order to have mandatory removal, we had to subsidize that, because like Tara said, we can't just cut this stuff and leave it on the ground or try to pile it and burn it. In particular for my project, I actually have a reforestation plant for these units. So I have to get the material off of there so that I have places to plant trees. So we subsidized about 5,000, what did I say? I said 5 million board feet per kind of project area. that removal to get that off. So we're paying. So the rest of it is optional. We're not paying for it. If they want to take it, that'll get subject to agreement, we're subject to agreement.
So by removal, are they taking it somewhere? They hauling it?
Yes, they're hauling it and then it's going, I don't know where it's going. It's going probably to a biomass, gonna end up, Tyler, I know better than I. Wheel breeders.
Everything's going there.
Yeah, wheel breeder, yeah.
Well, it's.
Shasta,
Shasta Resource Management,
Thanks.
yeah, they've changed the name, Shasta Resource.
Ownership.
Yeah, new ownership.
Sustainable Resource Management, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, so that's.
Okay, we got Keith.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, two things. One about the subject you were just discussing there, and just be aware that as you use operators, and maybe it encourages more people to get into the business, but so far it's creating a little bit of a draw on the limited resources of contractors. And maybe that's, you don't need to cry for me, but there's only so many loggers out there. And when they're logging coal material, it's getting a little bit tough to get some other projects done, but you'll have to work with that as we do. The other thing pertains to tethered logging, and it's not a new concept. It's not a new, it might seem new to some people, but I was up in Washington. It's been 15 years now, and they were up there doing it then, Oregon and Washington both to a high level, even requiring it in many situations for their contractors. We've been doing it in California for some time now, at least the past 4 years in California with some forced practice rules. So there's a lot of opportunities to reach out to existing operations, both ongoing and past. We had two contractors using that methodology over the past 2 years on our district as well. So a variety of soil types all over up and down the state, the Sierras, and the Coast Range. So just maybe look at the existing research and don't try and create anything new.
Hey, Keith, on that subject, Ross has asked for a brief description of tethered logging. Would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Make it real brief. Basically, it's equipment that can go over the side of the hill and does not lose traction because it is anchored to a road. It doesn't even take that much anchoring. It just keeps it from losing traction up and down the hill. So the compaction issue is not real. It doesn't churn in the mud. It's not trying to climb up. If it tried to climb up and down the hill on slopes 50 or 60%, and they can go up to 90%, and they still have traction. So, you couldn't do that with just gravity and the weight of the machine, because the weight of the machine is pointed down the hill and not to the tracks and towards the earth. So that's all it does, is it keeps the machine anchored so that it can walk up and down the slope. What you can do is you can log with a feller buncher, and he can use stumps to angle his tether as well. And he can preload the trails so that the number of trails going up and down the hill is actually less, whether you're cable logging or there's some ground-based skidding operations too that have just two people. You have a feller buncher doing thinning, and then you have a harvester loader forwarder that brings the material back up. So in those operations, they've got very low ground pressure tracks. And so there's a lot of configurations like that, but there are also some skidders that are tethered that go over the hillside and come right back and also do not break traction. So it's an efficiency model that's helpful, and a safety issue too, because people with chainsaws walking around on steep slopes, sometimes fewer of them can be safer.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Is that good, Russ? Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So last thing I wanted to leave you with, and I apologize if Forest Service has taken so long today, but wanted to make sure you all knew that we're hiring forestry techs right now. The jobs are open. So we're trying to hire 14 forestry tech positions on the west side. The NRA is looking to hire a couple. I don't know if you're trying to hire forestry techs, but there's sandwich boards outside of on Main Street at Hayfork and out here across by other stations. So if you know of any folks looking for work, we're looking to add on. And I
They're
apologize.
open now.
Yeah,
Are these seasonal or full-time?
permanent.
Permanent, wow.
jobs.
Oh,
And I apologize, I'm gonna have to go run and get ahead of the barbecue, so no one has to wait when you
Gotta
get there.
eat, right?
Gotta keep everyone happy.
All right.
And I apologize we took so long today. It was a very drawn out response. All
Thank you, Tara.
right, thank you.
Okay, before we move on, Jennifer, we do have some U.S. Fish and Wildlife folks with us. We just wanted to give opportunity for someone representing U.S. Fish and Wildlife to maybe Christine or Derek to give a brief report or.
Yes, I can do that. I don't want to
Okay.
impede on Jennifer's update though from the BLM.
It's all good.
Well, we
Okay.
figured you were kind of tied to the Forest Service a little bit, so maybe. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just real quickly, we do have 2 new staff that we've hired, biologists in our Forest Resources branch. So Derek Harvey, and Derek has experience working on Section 7 consultations and with the owl, and a couple of other listed species, but with BLM up in Oregon. So we're really happy to have him on board here now. And then we've also got Devin DeJacopo, who we hired. His start date was June. Derek's start date was toward the end of March. So they are definitely getting up to speed. And we've been out in the field a couple times with Reading BLM staff for their potential Jennings Ridge project. That was in mid-June. And then we also have met a couple times with the NRA staff for the Trinity Camps project and talked about potential impacts to owl habitat, really refining what habitat is. And we expect that consultation at least to be streamlined and informal. We're not sure what is planned for the Jennings Ridge project yet, but we've shared some information with Steve Lehman and Tobias Fellbeck, who are the biologists there. Just a couple of quick notes. We did complete recent Section 7 consultation on the August Fire Restoration Phase 2 project with the Shasta Trinity, as well as the McFarland Fire Recovery Project. And as I think you all are aware, the Region 5 Forest Service's post-disturbance hazardous tree management project decisions, I believe, were just signed for those in mid-June by both forests, but we did complete consultation for that large endeavor in February. So do you have any questions for me on those few updates?
Not seeing any, Kristen.
Okay, thank you. Real quickly then too, the service is in the process of revising some of the Yet Endangered Species Act regulations that were changed back in August 2019. So I did send Kelly some information on that with links to pre-recorded webinars on those proposed revisions. And there is a webinar this coming Monday, the 24th. And that link is also, I shared that with Kelly, so hopefully he can get that out to everybody today in a mass email to the collaborative members. But real quickly, we're in the comment period now for those proposed revisions that ends August 21st. And just one proposed revision talks about how actual critical habitat for species is designated. It's not changing any of the critical habitat designations that we have now for the owl. It's basically a revised rule about how critical habitat in general is designated and the information that the service is required to consider. And then there's a couple of clarifications and additional conservation metrics and measures for our Section 7 consultation processes that I think will be of interest to the federal agencies as well as the public. So if you are interested in that, I strongly suggest taking a close look at the proposed revisions for the interagency cooperation and consultation. And then the other revision is with, we're going to go back, or we're proposing to go back to applying the blanket protections for threatened species that endangered species receive. So in 2019, those blanket protections were taken away from newly listed threatened species. So it's just the proposal to kind of go back to prohibiting take and harm to threatened species that we had prior to 2019. And if the service finds that it's, you know, prudent to issue a specific 4D rule for take prohibitions for a newly listed threatened species, we'll still have that ability to do that. So I know that's pretty technical, but any questions on those proposed revisions?
Not seeing any, Kristen?
Okay. And then I don't know if there's going to be a field trip on August 18th, but we've got it on the calendar just in case to be able to join.
Great.
Yeah, it's a standing meeting, so that'd be great. We haven't decided. I need to talk with Tara and we'll talk probably today a little bit about that potential. So we'll let you know once we have that in hand.
Okay.
And I did get your message this morning, so I will send that out at the end of this meeting.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Any questions for Kristen? Oh, Jerry.
Kristen, thank you for the updates. I was wondering, are you involved in the land tender training also that Six Rivers is doing, what was involved with through the Watershed Center?
I have not seen anything regarding that, Jerry. I've heard maybe a couple of months ago, Randy Paris said something about land tender, but our field office doesn't consult with the Six Rivers National Forest. So I know that's a little bit of a strange thing. They consult with the Arcata field office. So as of today, we're not involved, but
right, this was coming out of the Watershed Center.
Okay, yeah, I can reach out to Randy, but no, at this point, we're not. We haven't been involved.
Okay, all right, yeah, please do. And then Kristen, I was wondering, you said you had a forester trained on the software. Will that be just a single person working there, or are other staff also being trained?
And yeah, thanks.
You're getting Chris, we got Kristen and Christine, I think.
Yeah, right, this is for Kristen, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. My understanding is that was a train the trainer type of training that Randy Paris hosted. So we had several of our staff and Shasta Trinity also. Yeah, I'm hoping that they'll be able to share that knowledge.
So it's kind of trickle down training, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Christine? Thank you for that clarification. Seeing none, we will move on to Jennifer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stand so I'm not like hidden in the corner from Betty. Everybody knows that.
Sure.
That, then I can't look at Kenneth if I.
I wanna watch you.
Right? I'm again line of sight with Ross, so.
There you go.
Anyway, I actually have 9 things on my list, which is kind of crazy considering, like, it tells me how busy my staff is, considering this is only one of 5 counties that we're doing work in. And this list is not all inclusive of everything we have going in Trinity County by any means. So I'm going to start local. I'll end at the kind of last 2 things with kind of bigger statewide stuff that's happening. And I'll try to get it all done because I know we're behind schedule and I don't want to miss out on the rest of the partners. So first and foremost, I am sick of talking about it. So I know you all are probably sick of hearing me talk about our resource management plan, equivalent to the forest plan, except ours is scheduled to be finished by September of 2024. So we are kind of deeps in the depths of doing RMP planning. We should have the next kind of major step as a draft EIS and RMP released for the public review in September. So that's kind of the big push and the next thing that you guys will hear kind of formally from us. So there'll be a series of public meetings, both virtual and in person, to collect comments on that EIS. So like I said, we're still on track to get that finished no later than September of 24. That date might be upwards. So it might actually be sooner than that. if we can get that pulled off. All right, so that's ongoing. So 2 Oregon Mountain signed the NEPA decision, finished. So for about 39 acres of fuels reduction and thinning. The goal is to get the kind of sample mark and layout started, working also with the Community Forest Steering Committee to do that, hopefully in the next month or so. Christine kind of mentioned, we're starting the early planning phases of a project on Jennings Ridge. Would be a thinning, I would imagine with the supplemental fuels project, about 800 acres. That's all I know at this point. If people want more specifics, reach out to me and or Alden. I guess for those of you who don't know, this is Alden Neal. He's my associate manager. I have 2 in Reading, but Alden supervises the resources staff. So most of the people that you all interact with as specialists, with the exception of recreation and realty, all report to Alden. So, okay, so 3, January 4, the campground EA. So we have been working on an EA for creation of a pay campground, converting the Steiner Flat kind of free campground to a pay campground. Also includes some work and then ultimately a fee increase to our campgrounds in Trinity as well as Shasta County. That NEPA document for that campground is open for comment now through, I didn't do the math, but basically 12 more days. So if people have comments, let us know. We can't raise rates. We have to do the NEPA and also the work that has to happen in the campground in order to make it a fee campground. But then we also have to do a business plan that has been held up because we don't have a functional resource advisory council. So kind of been in limbo on the financial piece of that for a while. They're not huge increases. The proposed increases to rates are not huge. Our campgrounds are currently $10 a night. So we're not talking about huge increases. Let's see, number 5. Oh, my personnel update. I just told you all the really great work we're doing, and we've been like a fairly stable staff in my field office for probably the last 5 years. I'm sad to announce that we'll be losing our forester. So Heidi is leaving California BLM, headed to be the state forester for Wyoming. So we'll be looking to fill behind her, and I know Alden's already working on that announcement. We do have a second forester who's been on staff, so hopefully he can step in and keep things moving along until we can get our second forester position filled. We're also losing our rec planner, Jessica Tyra, who's been here for a while. I think it's going on 3 or 4 years. She took a position with the Park Service in Utah. So she runs almost all of our non-motorized trails, as well as our SRP program for fishing guides on the Trinity. So she's done at the end of July. So we're looking to replace that. Both of those are in the queue, and we're hopeful we'll get some replacements relatively fast. Let's see. 6. Fuels work. So we've been doing some ongoing fuels work in Hayfork associated with the Ewing trails and some Ewing kind of fuels reduction work that's been done there. So some masticating, if people see that, that's been ongoing. So we'll continue to chunk away at those projects as weather permits. And then so I'll transition from kind of the local stuff to the bigger picture. So I sent Kelly, I think it was yesterday.
You did.
Email with a new release. So we have a resource advisory council for the BLM, operates differently than the resource advisory council for the Forest Service, and that the primary goal is not to, there's no funding. We don't give money out to projects on the BLM RAC, but the BLM RAC, which covers all of Northern California, functions to guide and advise the BLM and serve as a conduit between the public that you're representing in your specific category in the BLM. So we have not had a functional RAC in probably 4 or 5 years. Part of that is due to the way the process works. We take nominations at a local level, they funnel through our state, and then they have to be approved by the administration at headquarters. And if the final piece doesn't get done, which has been the approval at headquarters, then we don't have a RAC for the rack to be functional, we have to have a certain number of members in each category to have a quorum for them to be able to actually like provide feedback. So for us, they're critical for a couple of things that we have going. One, the business plan for fee increases so that we can actually attempt to make some money that goes right back into the campgrounds for maintenance and improvements. And we can't raise those rates until we have a business plan. We can't have a business plan until we have rack approval. Can't have rack approval, we don't have rack. See the connections. But also our resource management plan. So ideally, we would have a functional rack who would be kind of lockstep with us as we're developing the resource management plan and providing feedback. And obviously, we've been briefing them on what we've been doing, but they can't take any action or give us any official feedback because we don't have a rack. So what this all boils down to is the announcement is open and we're seeking rack members. Pat Frost has been a rack member for the BLM for a while. And there's different categories, so everything from public at large to elected officials, you know, people in recreation, people in industry, timber, grazing, so different categories. But if you're interested, Kelly sent out the email. You can call me and also talk with our district public affairs specialist. But the has to have a federal register notice to be open, which finally happened, and how it is. So you want to come be on a BLM rack. You do get to travel paid at least once a quarter to one of the 4 field offices. So from the coast to Nevada, you could take your pick. All right, the last 2 things. I talked to you guys previously about our statewide fuels reduction environmental assessment that was open. So it's a BLM wide fuels NEPA document that allows us to do fuels reduction work in the urban interface with basically once the document is finished with a documentation of NEPA adequacy and on the ground surveys. So should streamline that work for us. It is almost finished. I think we're pending consultation back from the regulatory agencies. So hopefully that will get done here in the near future.
I can just say that a lot of the fuel work that we've done in Lewiston or up in the community for us is tiered to another programmatic document that's just for fuels, and it's within like a certain distance of infrastructure. I think it's 200 feet. We use it a lot. So this will really broaden the scope that we can really, speed up the time on NEPA on. So this is going to be a great tool for us, especially in Trinity County and Shasta County, all the counties really.
Yeah. So it will help us from having to do right now. We have to do a full EA. And we won't have to do that on most, really for Reading BLM, it'll be the majority of our fuels projects will now not require that because we'll have the ability through some programmatic, either the one that's already finished or this one that's coming. So because our land base is so scattered and not blocked up like other offices, this one really kind of helps us probably more than some of the other offices. There is a positive to having 250,000 acres scattered across 5 counties, 1,000 miles of urban interface. And then last but not least, I did hear yesterday that the governor's wildfire and forest resiliency task force is meeting for 2 days in Reading in October. And I guess that meeting is open to the public. So October 5th and 6th at Shasta College. So if people aren't aware, you can Google that task force and kind of see some of the stuff that they've been working on. I think from both the Forest Service and BLM perspective, a lot of our representation on that task force has been at our state or regional levels. But they are coming, I guess they pick different localities and come do like a regional meeting to look at specific areas, issues. So they will be, for anybody interested, they'll be at Shasta College and it is open to the public. That's all I know, but I'm assuming they will look at a bigger geographic area than just Reading while they're up here.
They seem to be having them annually. The last one was in Santa Rosa roughly this time frame last year. So, and I know that we had some representation down there with that particular meeting. So that's good news. I hadn't heard that yet.
There's not an agenda that I know of or anything that I've seen. I just confirmed with our state forester who's been speaking in that this morning that it was happening because I was trying to get ahead of whether or not we're going to be asked to build trips. Because, that'll usually come like mid-September and the meeting's October 1st. So trying to get ahead of it. I think that's it.
All right, Jennifer.
Cool. Questions, Ross, you got anything?
Thank you all. Getting back to the trail.
Kenneth,
I hope we didn't scare Heidi away with this. The forest project.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Heidi had been detailed into our state forester position behind our state forester who was kind of shuffled somewhere else. And so I think she's just kind of at the point in her career that she's looking for that next step. Although I do question why a forester would want to leave and go to Wyoming. How many trees there are there? There really wasn't a lot, but I mean, I don't know, who might have questioned, but I think it will be good for her and she's ready for that next step. So if you know any foresters want to come to work for the BLM, that would be the time to have them.
mine.
That would be the time to have them. reach out to us.
It's a super important position for my staff, so I am really annoying to HR, so I will get that position, hired as soon as possible. But yeah, super high priority for us.
And they're not, I mean, they just, the last vacancy, they're just not easy to find.
Yes.
It will definitely becoming a specialty that's kind of more and more difficult, so. And especially for BLM, like California, we only have a few offices that have a forestry program. So like to lose a forester when we only have like 6 in the state is pretty devastating for us, so. That's it. I'll be at the barbecue, so you can pepper me with all kinds of questions. We'll be there.
all right, thank you, Jennifer.
Okay.
All right. Okay, time check. We are at 11:50. We are scheduled to conclude at noon. That gives us 10 minutes. We're going to do some rapid fire here. I'm sure you're all hungry. And we don't want to delay lunch. So we will do our best to roll through the remainder of the agenda and try to wrap up by noon. So
I think all the big news for Recreation Committee was pretty much the what Ben had spoken to earlier with as far as the Minersville. So unless Carol had anything else that you wanted to bring up, we could probably skip past that. My report out for RCD, I guess the biggest thing for us going right now is that we finally got acknowledgement that the stewardship, the 10-year stewardship agreement that we had in development with the Forest Service, which is both sides, it affects both the Six Rivers and the Shasta Trinity National Forest, is executed. There's $2.7 million in that agreement and about 15 different 10 different projects and probably 5 different funding sources. So the accounting on that's going to be a lot of fun. But that is now in place. We're going to be assigning account codes and getting right to work on that because we've got things in there like obviously road work, forest fire, fuels reduction, hazard tree removal, fisheries, forestry technician work, and third-party NEPA all kind of and folded into that particular agreement. I understand that it's set up in such a way that we can, as a stewardship agreement, we'll be able to basically just use modifications to add money and tasks to that agreement, which will speed up a lot of the assistance that we'll be able to, and I'll be talking a little bit more about this at the partner barbecue, but it's a pretty big deal for us, and we're excited to get to get that project rolling. So and it's not particularly limited in its scope, other than, I mean, those are kind of just the first flush of things, but it has the ability to be added to in pretty much every capacity. It's kind of a kitchen sink agreement, so we're pretty excited about that. Other than that, we're continuing to work on CAL FIRE projects, both our forest health on both federal lands, so both on the Forest Service and on BLM. I think we've actually set that aside a little bit now with PALs that we've got, and the heat and the dry and all that stuff. And then we've been focusing more on our fire prevention, and I think the most recent place that we've been working is out Webar K on the CAL FIRE prevention grant. So we've got all of our crews out working. I will mention too that we have several agreements that have been put in place of mitigation projects with Caltrans that have to do with like Ditch Gulch, the replacement of Ditch Gulch Bridge down on Highway 36. We're expecting to be working on some of the mitigation for the actual bridge realignment for Swift Creek up in the North Lake. We expect that'll probably be happening later this fall, as well as several on Highway 3 between Weaverville and Hayfork. So we got quite a lot going on right now, and have sort of expanded out. We've got some shuffling happening with the internally with our organization and getting things sort of squared away. But things are on a major upswing for us, and we're trying to respond to all the needs and of the partners and all the work that is needing to get done. So I'll leave it at that for now, and turn it over to Xander for the one from the Watershed Center.
Xander, you with us?
Yep.
Okay.
Not a whole lot new to update. I think Tara mentioned briefly, part that I'm directly involved in is starting to look at laying out Bowerman treatments. It's going to be a few weeks yet of developing a cruise and implementing the cruise before we get any kind of sample mark for the collaborative to be able to come look at. But details on that will be forthcoming in the next month or two, I think. So stay tuned for that. And then maybe for the sake of time, just answer briefly any questions rather than going down the list of other updates.
Any questions for Xander? Don't see any, Xander? Yep, look. Thumbs up. All right, thank you. Dave, did you want to give anything for PUD or?
Well, this is my first meeting here. Paul usually attends these and he asked that I come here. I've met most of you or some of you first time here. But just kind of introduce myself. We've got, you know, it's kind of wrapped back in here with tree mortality. I was hoping that we were going to touch on that today.
Want to lead that discussion next meeting?
Sure.
Okay. There we go. We got our.
Because that's our biggest hurdle right now is
good deal.
Hazard trees along the power line corridors. It's unprecedented, really. So anyway,
we'll follow up with you.
Our crews are out working.
Great. Got it. All right. Thank you. Okay, we're in the final leg here. Public input. Seeing none. Kelly, we got anything to report?
Nope. Nothing outside of what we haven't already talked about today.
Okay. August 18th, field tour planning.
Haven't really talked with Tara about what she's thinking. I think she had something in mind, but I don't know what that might have been. And I don't know if there's any, Tara's been sort of shouldering a lot of that burden. So I didn't know if there was anything that Six Rivers wanted to address or.
We were thinking about maybe South Fork Mountain.
Yeah.
That's our joint project.
Okay.
So I'll talk to her about that today. And the Watershed Center, because they're a key player in helping us with that. And I was hoping that that land tender would actually help us with that too, because we did do some drone ortho photography. Xander probably knows more about this than I do, the details. And I understood that we could use that photography, that ortho photos in the land tender with the model to extrapolate some information where we don't have LiDAR, because land tender really uses LiDAR, but it's still functional with the model. So yeah, I'll talk to her. Thanks for the reminder.
All right.
We'll follow up. some information out as soon as we have it.
Are you looking for agenda building items?
We are now, Carol.
Perhaps an update on the alert wildfire camera implementation.
Camera. Alert. Alert wildfire.
They're the cameras that are posted around. There's only the two now, or are there more than that in the county?
There's the two.
There's two in the county. There's one that looks into the county from outside. But we've been talking about this since 2019. Trying to get more.
Who would be best to kind of lead that kind of a conversation? The ideas?
A lot of the issues that we were having had to do with the ability to get the cameras on towers. And some of the hangups that we were experiencing had to do with the limited number of towers that we have access to, and that and obviously the prevalent ones are Forest Service, and that were some hangups with making that happen. So I can certainly have a conversation with Tara a little bit about that. That's my next meeting with her in a couple weeks, and see what we can do about that.
The Forest Service had a list of, there were 9 towers in Trinity County they were considering. And then, but it's a joint project with University of
Diego.
North Reno.
It's Nevada, yeah.
Nevada, and then so we'd have to get the university staff update.
Lookout towers, we see towers, lookouts.
No, it's the cameras.
They're just little cameras that get posted on like
Right.
Peter towers.
Like on the Peter towers. Oh, yeah.
So like.
Hey, Jim and Kelly, your voice, you're muted. I don't know if anybody else is muted.
It's
muted them all. Oh,
There you are.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, we have, do you have a question, Jerry?
Just wanted to suggest for the next meeting on the tree mortality, besides the PUD right away, can someone reach out to Caltrans? I know that other agencies have said they're tough to get, but let's make a push and see if they can be here or be part of that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can talk to Tom March about their hazard tree program.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I need to talk with them about the Weaverville Community Forest. The actual like signage that we were wanting to put up on Highway 3 as you're coming into Weaverville, which is already cleared for NEPA. We just need to get their definition of what their easement and right of way actually is in that area, because it looks really narrow from the maps that they presented to me, but I need to reach out to them anyway. So
No, is that Kelly? You're not on the screen. Is that Kelly?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
me.
Okay, thanks.
Kelly, yes, yes, I will follow up.
Okay, so we've got Xander and Larry. Let's go with Xander first.
Yeah, question for Kelly. Is there any sort of demo of land tender proposed for this group?
It probably would be, I mean, I think we've talked about it a few times when it was sort of in development, but we had, I don't know if we were quite ready for that yet. So I could talk with Randy, I guess, or we could potentially start to look at that as a potential item for future meetings.
Okay, I think that would be valuable and worthwhile to actually see some of its workings and outputs.
Yep, I think so too.
Thank you, Xander. Larry.
Yeah, so with the wildfire alert cameras, it's really going to take our facilitation team to stay on this, because the Forest Service is always changing players. And, you know, we had a list of towers that they were going to be considering. And then every meeting we asked for a report and they said, oh, next meeting, and it just got dropped. And now it's like, what, that was 9 months ago or something. So who knows what actually ever happened.
Yeah, me and Pat had like an ad hoc committee that sort of dealt with that, and then we kind of got to a place where there wasn't any movement on the forest side. Not to throw anybody under the bus, but we weren't able to get any further, so I can revive that conversation.
All right, thank you, Larry. Any other future agenda items? Not seeing any.
And regarding this Trinity River winter release flows, that was something I had been discussing with Mike Dixon, and he had somebody specifically in mind that would have been able to come over from the coast, and there was scheduling conflicts, so I wasn't able to make that happen. So it's something I think that we discussed last meeting, and people agreed that it sounded like a good topic. So I'd like to keep that in the mix as well. So
very good.
So along with that, I mean, at one point, the collaborative was considering asking the Board of Supervisors to write a letter on minimum lake levels. So I'm not sure if that ties in, but right now there's the Bureau of Reclamation is doing a reconsultation. So now is the opportunity to kind of which the Board of Supervisors has already written a letter suggesting a fifth alternative to the whatever the document. But it wouldn't hurt for the collaborative, I think, to weigh in and say, you know, from a recreation standpoint, that would be awesome to have minimum lake levels. I mean, yeah, for the fish, we definitely need it, but for recreation, that would be also a huge benefit. So maybe that's a future agenda.
got it.
Very good, thank you. Okay. I'm sure we're sufficiently hungry by now. Everyone's getting quiet. So can we call it a wrap?
Yep.
All right, thank you all for your participation and those on Zoom. We will see you in a couple of months.
A minute.
For those that are attending the barbecue, we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Yes.
Sure. I can send the invite. Thanks, everybody.
I'll be ready.
I'm so busy, I don't even know. Well, yeah.
There was one now?
Yes.